Hello friends, this is Nate with Chords and Coffee. I'm gonna take a quick little drink here. That's good. My mom made this cup. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So our first question ever came from Blevins Goat. And he says, can you talk about soloing using the cage system? Be happy to. So the cage system, if you don't know, is a way to look at the fretboard and map out the fretboard using chord shapes, okay? Guitar players, we love our shapes, right? And what that means is that, for example, like a C, the first time you encounter this finger event is making a C chord, right? Well, the truth is that this is not isolated to just C major. You can move this situation around. And in fact, if you just go up a whole step, you get somewhere between Pink Floyd, Blue Sky, and Def Leppard Hysteria, right? I just dated myself, and that's okay. Most of y'all already knew. And then another half step there is E flat, and then there's F sus2, and then G up on the 10th fret there. And honestly, all of the chords, if you haven't done that, here's an A chord. You can move them around to, yield different results, right? This G chord, there's a Stone Temple Pilots song, Time to Take Her Home Easy. I remember the first time I heard that, what was that? Big Empty from the Crow soundtrack, Brandon Lee, God bless him. First time I heard that, I was like, what are they doing? And then I realized they're just moving this G chord up to the 3rd fret and then to this, A that has all these activities happening, and then the C, right? But it's just a simple shape. So there's a lot of cool things you can do that sound way more complicated than they are, that are just simply just moving old familiar shapes around, right? So the question is, how do we get some cool single note solo-y stuff out of the cage system? Well, the first thing is let's go back to the C chord. You take this shape, we're going to call that the C shape. Now we're going to look at the A shape, but we're going to slide this up to here. Need to replace that with our ring finger, put a bar on it. And you know that. You know that C shape probably, right? So this to this, and then the G shape, slide this up to the 8th fret. There's a C all the way up yonder there. And then the first bar chord shape you ever learned, more than likely, was an E with the bar on it. And then up here on the 8th fret, there's your C. And then finally, and this one gets a little scrunchy up in here, this is a D. That's D shape. That's actually a C major because it's on the 12th fret. So what's cool about soloing out of chord shapes is that because they're chord shapes, they naturally give you a sense of melody because there's these intervallic leaps just built into it because you have 1, 3, 5. Just have a basic triad, right? As opposed to hearing kind of the logical, mathematical progression of a scale, which isn't bad. This is just a different flavor to cook with. Going to be using a lot of cooking analogies, so buckle up. So how I use that thinking where I'm using different chord shapes of the same chord is instead of using just good old C, and there ain't nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of times where that is magic and perfectly appropriate, right? But a lot of times, C major 7 is a little bit better. And I'm going to tell you why. Because remember, we just talked about in the previous video that a C major 7 is essentially an E minor. Remember? G, B, and E with a C in the bass, right? We talked about that, right? Well, if I use this shape, and then I using this A shape with the C, and then throw that B there, Now I'm probably going to get rid of this. I mean, that looks like a Ninja Turtle handshake. Look at that thing coming at you. But if I put this right here, from this shape to this shape, right? I could just kind of mess around just right out of there. And the way that you're gonna want to practice that is you're gonna want to find something that your hands like to do that sound like a melody, right? That's just built out of those shapes. And yeah, I'm throwing in a few extra notes there, but I'm kind of hunting for it. And it's also, this is just straight out of the A minor pentatonic scale. We'll talk about that later. But just using just those two shapes, and maybe just for why nots. Let's go up here to this guy. This is a C major 7, one of my favorite shapes. Look at this thing. It's like a little stair step. Little stairway to cool right there. So 7th fret on the high E. B is 8th fret. Ring finger is on the G string of the 9th fret, and then pinky is on the 10th fret. And also, I love on the high E string, if you do pinky on the 10th fret and then pull off to the ring on the 9th, pull off to the middle finger on the 8th, and then 7th. Right? That's cool, but just that little activity just then, I'm literally just thinking C, right? And so for soloing, the key is I want to listen, back to the cooking analogy, I want to taste as I'm cooking and try to find some little licks that I can play inside of. Let me see if I can get that metronome going again here. God help me, I'm playing with a metronome on the internet. Here we go. That's a cool... Just finding one little idea like that, and yes, I did get off a little bit. Just finding that one little idea. I hadn't played that exact thing before, but I'm just sort of forcing myself by throwing myself into the fire of a metronome, which I encourage you to do. Get your metronome going and try to, I mean, you might even just start by just moving these shapes. Just back and forth. The C major 7 to this A minor 9, which is also a C major 7, Ninja Turtle, Turtle Power. And then right here, right? Just moving those three shapes. Now, what's cool, that is not precluded to C. That is something that you can do with everything, right? That's the cool thing about guitar. Now, obviously, there's some stuff that sounds better with open strings, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to that later down the road, and that's why we have these cool things, right? But pound for pound, there's way more of a turn on investment for trying to keep these closed string activities going because you can move it around, transpose it super easy. So cage system, soloing, you need to connect a couple of shapes, start off with just a couple, get that into where it feels comfortable. It feels like something you can cook with. Add something else. Remember, one of the great things about what I'm going to call guitar culture is that, you know, we learn for the rest of our lives, right? We are learning from people that are in front of us. We're learning from people that are just getting started behind us. And we're learning from our peers that are around us. So you're kind of learning in a radius, right? And you're learning about not just technique and chords and music theory, but you're also learning about tone. And there's all these things that just, it's a never-ending, wonderful opportunity to improve yourself as a person and learn to play guitar and make music with your friends in the process. I hope this helps you. If you like this sort of thing and you want to contribute by adding some ideas or suggestions, just comment below. Hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next week for Chords and Coffee.